Hi, Sally.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, everybody out there listening.
Welcome to A Year Ago Today. Tyler really liked that intro, you could tell.
Oh, boy. We're trying to get our intro down, and I don't know. That was how we were doing it today, so maybe it'll be different next week. Or maybe not, because that really made me laugh.
We'll see.
I even did a big wave with my hands when I said
Oh,
it.
wow. That's amazing.
Anyway, hi, everybody.
Oh, before we begin, I wanted to thank everyone who's listening right now. No
Oh my
matter
God.
when you're listening.
Yes.
We love you so much.
So
we think
much.
that you are the best people in the whole world.
In the whole world.
And it's an honor to host this podcast for you.
Oh, really? It really is. I just feel like I'm your sidekick who just, like, repeats certain words that you say. It's an honor.
Okay, now we can start.
Okay, so we're gonna start now. Sally, how are you?
I'm so great.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm really good.
Are you sweating?
I am. Well,
I feel like I can tell now.
you can tell when I'm sweating. You can hear it in my voice. That makes
Yeah.
sense. It's like an energy level, I think. So,
Yeah.
I tried to, like, get really calm before we started, but it didn't really work. I'm just so excited.
I know. Tell us what's the best thing that happened to you this week.
Oh my God, so much has happened.
Or since we last recorded, because it was longer than a week ago.
Oh, well, that really shifts things.
Okay, well, never mind then. I just said that
I
because
like it,
mine
I
was
like
over
it.
a week ago. I'm pretty
I like
sure.
it because this episode, now the order that these are going to air in, I'm going to say it. Oh my God, what am I doing? You opened up a whole can of worms just now when you expanded the scope of this beyond a week. The best thing that happened since we last talked is that I had a profound sexual experience that I just made me be like, oh my God, is this what sex is supposed to be? Like, I've evidently been doing it wrong my whole life. Anyway, so since our last episode was kind of about sex, I feel like that's appropriate to share. And if that was an overshare for you out there in listener land, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't think you need to apologize for that.
Okay, but I'm not sorry.
Taken back.
But also I wanted to say I'm home in New Mexico right now at my childhood home, and it's so quiet here, and I have right next to me, I just went crazy at the crystal store the other day and bought like 11 new crystals.
Oh,
So
boy.
I have like a gorgeous little crystal altar, and it's so quiet. And propping my computer up right now, I have a big, thick book that's a copy of my dad's doctoral dissertation. And so it's really beautiful to feel like he's here, and it's so quiet. And anyway, so much
good.
is happening. I just had a massage.
Oh, nice.
Sally, what's the best thing that's happened to you since we last talked?
I climbed to the top of the Culver City stairs.
Yay!
I'm very excited about this. I was thinking before we started, I was like, oh, what's the best thing that happened the last week? I don't know. And then I was like trying to rack my brain for something, and I was like, wait a minute, I remember I was going to talk about climbing the Culver City steps, but it's just that I think it's been more than a week, so that's why I forgot.
But if you want to see a picture, we did post a picture on the Year Ago Today Instagram.
Yes, we did. And you guys, I did not think that I would make it. I stopped constantly, very often. Thankfully, everyone else was suffering as much as me, so we all kept stopping. So that made me feel good, because
Did you
I was
do
like,
this
okay,
with
it's not just
Justin?
me. No, I did it by myself.
Oh,
And then I
wow.
texted him. I didn't tell him I was doing it, and I just texted him from the top, and he was like, what? What's happening?
Oh,
Yeah, he was
Sally, I love
excited.
that you did it by yourself.
I did, because I had said to him that I was going to try to like go a couple of times without him so that I could like work myself up there. And so I feel like that really helped, because then
Wait, but
there was
now
less pressure.
Are you going to do it again? Because I feel like after that, now you're going to be like, I'm never going back.
No, I'm totally going to do it again. It was really great. It just took a lot out of me. And, you know, I went really slow and steady, and now I know. And also, next time, now I know, don't try to jog there at all. Because
Also,
I feel like that really took a lot of energy out of me.
Next time, remember you need to take a snack because you were hungry
I
when you got to the top.
need to take a snack next time. A little granola bar. Kind bar.
Reminder.
So that's it. That's the best thing. It was amazing. I thought I was going to die, but it felt so good.
That should be the title of your book. If you ever have a book. I thought I was going to die, but it felt so good.
I really like that. I'm going to put that on the idea list.
Okay, good. All right. Anything else you want to say?
No, let's get started because I'm excited.
Boy, me too. So our guest today is Ashley. Hi, Ashley.
Hello, Tyla. Hi, Sally.
Hello.
Yay! I'm so excited that you're here.
I am too. You guys have me giggling.
Yay! Oh, boy. Oh, I already said, oh, boy.
It's okay. I said it earlier.
Okay. I'm starting to get a little bit of a complex about how much I say it.
It's okay. We're really helping people play fun drinking games.
It's true. Last night, you guys, Sally and I were on the phone and we were having a difficult podcast moment. It was like a lot of things were going wrong. And then she and I said, oh boy, in exact unison. And it was perfect. And my mom was standing in the kitchen. She heard it happen. And my mom went, oh boy. Oh, all right. Let's get to the point of why we're here. Ashley, I want to invite you to shut your eyes, please, and take a really deep breath and allow yourself to really journey back to a year ago today, what was going on for you. And if you will, share with us in just one word how you were feeling.
Scared.
So a year ago today, Ashley was returning to her home in Marlborough after a year of traveling to follow her soul's calling. And I think to sum it up, in some ways it felt like the right move, but in other ways you felt like by moving home you were failing. Is that about accurate?
Yeah, it was very much all of the feels happening at once. Knowing deep down that that's where I was being guided, but not being able to see why on earth I was being called to return home. So feeling like it was very difficult to trust that guidance I was receiving. So there was a lot of fear around making that decision.
Can you give us a little bit of background about where you had been and what you had been doing and where you thought your life was headed before you received this guidance to move back home?
Yeah, so I was on my way back home a year ago today, and a year ago, or a year prior to leaving Massachusetts to Marlborough, my hometown, I sold almost everything I owned to embark on a soul-searching travel adventure. I had known for forever, for my whole life, that I was really put on this earth to help people. I was happiest and most expanded when I was sharing love and kindness and just helping people see how beautiful they were. I couldn't figure out how to translate that into a life purpose or into a career that made sense. I really couldn't see beyond the box that I was in. So, I thought about going to school for education because I had taught preschool for so long. And then I ended up studying sociology, which was really fun and I loved it. I was really drawn to activism and to the idea of making a difference. But I wasn't feeling super aligned with the idea of going into social work. So I really was on this trip to find my truth and to connect to my purpose. I knew that there was something missing in my life, and I just couldn't figure out what it was in Marlborough. So I knew that completely shaking things up and getting myself out of my comfort zone was going to be so key in figuring out what it was I was meant to do. And the road trip was full of so many ups and downs, so many challenges, and all of it really did nurture me in the way I so badly was hoping it would. There was a point in the trip where I really saw myself continuing to be in this momentum. And the last thing I thought I would do was go back home to Marlborough. Ultimately, I knew that's where the next part of my journey would unfold. My ego had such a hard time with it.
What kind of things was your ego saying to you at that point?
There were a lot of stories about failing. A couple months into my trip, my car got stolen in San Francisco with pretty much everything I owned. Hundreds of dollars of camping gear, all my clothes, my laptop, everything was stolen, and it was all divine. But that was difficult. I had lost a friend on that trip, a friend of mine who was in Marlborough. She was a sister to me and family. And during the course of that year I was traveling, I had both found and lost love. So that was another layer of all of the ego stories. I had wanted so badly to stay out in California to try to make this relationship work that I was in. So going home felt like giving up on everything. I was afraid I was giving up on love, giving up on this beautiful adventure I had embarked on. I was so scared that I was going to come home and lose the magic, that I was going to return to life before the trip. I had no idea what I was coming home to.
That's such a beautiful way to phrase it, about being afraid that you're going to come home and lose the magic. Because I think that that is something that anyone who has been on any kind of personal growth journey away from home, whether it's like a conference or just international traveling or any kind of traveling, doesn't have to be international. It's like that feeling of like, when I get home, is my world going to contract?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's really what it was. I had found this part of me even through the troubles during my road trip, and I really was terrified of having it somehow taken away from me.
Already, I so empathize with you. I had a similar experience a couple of years ago. I was guided to go to Paris, which I love Paris, and it's been my home several times. And I bought a one-way ticket, and I didn't know how long I'd be there. I assumed that I would be there for a while, and I had moved out of the place that I was living in and was really excited about what I thought was going to be a really magical trip. And it was probably the worst couple of months of my entire life, with the exception of maybe my breakup from my former fiance. It was really, really awful, and it was such an extended dark night of the soul. It felt like, with these really wonderful magical moments of miracle and just oh my God, I'm alive, and how wonderful is that? That's truly, I still refer back to that experience as what I really learned how to surrender, because I literally thought that I was going to die, and I kept being alive, and I was I don't even understand what's happening. This should not be the thing that's going on. I should still definitely be dead. But then I came home, and to my childhood home, and I never had a good relationship with my parents. So even just because of that alone, I was already well, this is the worst. This is the worst place for me to be. This means that I'm terrible and a total failure. And what am I even doing here? And it ended up being a gift, obviously, or I guess that's not obvious, but I do look at it as a gift now. But at the time, I definitely felt like the failure. I definitely felt I don't understand why I'm back here. I don't think I like it. My ego was freaking out, besides being happy that I was still alive. So I'm already feeling so many feelings, just hearing you and remembering where I was. Because it was about 2 years ago that I left New York to go to Paris.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I can also really empathize with the part about coming home to family relationships. There was a lot going on there for me as well. in addition to going on this road trip to really connect to my life's purpose and to figure out where I was being called, I definitely left to do some healing. And a lot of it was surrounded around childhood trauma and relationships with my mom and my dad that needed healing. And I knew that in order to really be able to do the forgiveness work I needed to do, I needed to leave home and be on my own. And it was raw. It was so raw. I remember this moment I'll never forget in Colorado. I was living out of my car and I had a week off from work and I was by myself camping in some mountain pass a couple hours from Denver, and just everything was coming up to really be seen and felt. And I was exhausted. And I remember being on my knees on the earth and just sobbing and crying out, like full surrender. I remember telling God, I'm ready to forgive. Let me know what I need to do to be done with this. And that was such a transformational moment for me. And I was able to do a lot of work. I was able to get to a really good place energetically with my mom and my dad. So there were a lot of stories about coming home and being so close to them. Was I going to be able to stay in this good place? Had I truly forgiven them? Were things different now? Yeah, lots of uncertainty there too. So I thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, I remember I kept telling myself to like frame it nicely. I kept being like, oh, well, it'll be great. I'll get to be my new self in my old home, which to me felt like an adventure. But yeah, I definitely, that at least helped me stay open to what was there for me.
Yeah. And as you said, I can see now it was such a gift. Yeah, I really didn't have anything to worry about. Looking back, it's been so beautiful the way it's unfolded. And I'm really so grateful that I was guided back here and I can see why I needed to be here.
Well, before we talk more about what has unfolded for you since you came home a year ago today, I have a question, and it's actually for both of you. I didn't realize before we got on this call how similar your two experiences would be, and this is so interesting. So, Ashley, you were telling us that your car got stolen and most of your possessions. And also you were talking about camping alone, which that seems to me so brave. Like, I love camping, but I don't know if I could do it by myself. And then, Sally, I mean, you didn't go into detail, but there were nights when you didn't have a place to sleep in Paris, where you literally, like, slept in stairwells, and where people made off with all of your money through, you know, trying to rent apartments, and all these terrible things kept happening to you. And so my question for both of you is, which fear did you feel more intensely? Was it the fear in those moments of surrender during the trip, or was the fear more intense when you had that ego voice saying, you're going home, you're a failure?
Oh boy. That's a great question. For me, I'm not sure that there's one that they felt very different. So it's tough for me to say which was like stronger or worse, because obviously in the terrible moments while I was in Paris, I was just having such a hard time that when I say, like, I thought I was dying, like, that's literally what I thought was happening. There wasn't anything, like, I didn't come down with, like, I don't know, the chicken pox as an adult. But I was having tremendous trouble breathing and just, like, functioning in life. And my appetite completely went away. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to, like, wither away and die. And now I can't breathe. And, like, what is happening? And that was really terrifying. Until I really just I had to constantly just remind myself that I was okay and that I was safe. And thank God I had really tremendous support from near strangers people who would randomly reach out to me and be like, I was guided to give you an angel reading, so would you like that? And this was before I even really even knew what that was. I was like, I don't know what that is, but that sounds great. So that was a really intense fear. And in the very beginning, when I decided to go back to New York, I was feeling a lot of peace around it because it really felt powerfully like the right thing to do. But basically, as soon as I decided to do that, and once I was actually going there, then I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that this is what my life has come to. What is even happening right now? So it was just really different because I had this now strength of surrender. And so that made me feel like I was making the right decision. But I didn't know. I think up to that point, I thought that if my gut told me to do something and go somewhere, that it was going to be great. And then when I learned that that was not the case by taking this trip, I was like, oh, sometimes listening to my gut means that I'm going to be crying at a cemetery. And that the people are going to look at me like I'm crazy because I've got all of my luggage in the cemetery. So once I knew that it meant that, then I was like, okay, well, now I don't even know where this is going to go. I know that this is the right thing to do, but who the hell knows what's coming for me now? That's my long answer to your question.
Yeah, I love this question because my answer shocks me. I'm surprised by it. When I left on my road trip, I had very little plans. I didn't know how long I was going to be gone for. I had a general idea of where I was going. I knew I'd be going all the way to California, and I'd probably spend a couple months working for some friends out there. I knew that I might want to go to Hawaii because I had been there before and felt really connected. But I really didn't know what I was getting into, and that felt really exciting. The unknown was thrilling to me at that point. And I knew that it was really going to be a process of being stripped down. So even when my car got stolen, even though it did shake me up and it definitely left me feeling constricted, and there were times where I was really stuck in that scarcity mindset because money was so tight, I never doubted that it was all divine. I knew that I was being stripped down for a reason. I had already sold so much of my stuff. I had quit my job. I had already released so many parts of myself and identities. I knew that this was the next layer. And so I kind of was like, all right, bring it on. And 3 days after my car had gotten stolen, I had enough money to get a plane ticket to Maui, and I flew there and I bought, an old beat up car, and I lived out of that. And so there were times where it was scary, but I had such full faith that it was bringing me to exactly where I needed to be. I just needed to hold on and to keep believing and melt into total faith. And I really was able to do that. What I wasn't expecting is that all of this would be to return back to Marlboro. So that was the hard part. Okay, so my car got stolen and I've been living out of my car and sleeping in Walmart parking lots and eating whatever I could afford only to go back home to Marlboro. Mm-hmm. That was so hard for me to wrap my head around. So that was scarier, oddly enough. Returning to the familiar was so terrifying for me.
Well, so what happened when you got back? What was your experience of return like?
I came back very depleted. And that was really because I resisted coming home for longer than I needed to. I knew in March. I had known for a while, but I had decided it and I had spoken it out loud and declared it in March that I was going to be some kind of spiritual counselor. I was going to help people heal, and I was going to help people connect to spirit. I knew that, and I had full faith that that was going to happen, but I stalled for a while, and there were a lot of fears around that. And so what I had done from March to a year ago today was distract myself with trying to make my relationship work with, my last partner, who is an amazing man and is still a great friend to me today. But it just wasn't aligning. And so there was so much force there, really wasn't in the flow. And, what happens to us when we don't listen to our intuition is we get sick. And I started feeling really ill to the point of, it was like I had to come home. I needed to come home. I needed some support. I needed to come home and visit with my doctors that were in Massachusetts. So I came home really depleted, exhausted, very tender. I had quit drinking, which was a big thing for me. Massachusetts is full of heavy drinkers. That's kind of what we do here.
I think that's what people do everywhere.
Yeah. Especially in my group of friends. There was a lot of fear around connection, losing connection, not feeling like I was going to be supported with the choices I was making and the lifestyle I was choosing for myself. So I came home knowing that things were going to be different, and I didn't know how graceful these changes were going to be. And I was surprised. Things happened and changed really quickly. God proved me wrong, and it didn't take long for me to really be flooded with the support and love I needed. So I came home depleted, but it was in the matter of weeks that I was feeling more like my highest self than I've ever felt before.
Sally, did you have a similar experience when you came back to New York?
Not really.
Doesn't always happen that fast.
No, I was like, that's amazing. I'm trying to remember what kind of state you were in, Sally.
I think I was just throughout all of this, I also was trying to launch a program, which don't do that. Don't try to launch something within your business when you're going through really ridiculous turmoil. And so that just felt unknown to me. And even though it was very healing for me to be home in terms of my relationship with my parents, particularly my mother, and just in general with the feminine and all of that, it just didn't feel that good. It felt very different from the way that things feel now. I really am committed to learning from pleasure, and this was before that. So I was just I just kept learning from pain. To the point where really the reason that I now am so committed to learning from pleasure is because things just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And even though I had really lovely moments throughout that time, and I could be really grateful for all of those moments, eventually I was just this cannot be the way to learn. This cannot be how spiritual growth works. This just does not make any sense. But yeah, there were just so many moments where I was I cannot believe that this is my life. I cannot believe that I'm here again. I vowed to myself that I would never move back in with my parents. And here I am. And I can't get any money in my bank account. And I just don't know what's happening. By that point, a lot of my friends had moved out of New York. So there were only really a couple of people left. And that didn't feel good either. And really the only thing that felt good was that I started to really cling to tiny rituals. So, waking up at 5:30 in the morning to walk to Starbucks so that I could edit all day. That was the highlight of that time.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that felt so good because it's well, I'm really great at editing and this job is fun and I know how a day at Starbucks goes. And they've got great music there and the people are friendly and I've got my table that I always get to first because I get in at 6 o'clock in the morning. So those things became really special to me, and those were the highlights. But otherwise, I was just so unhappy. I really couldn't come to terms with the fact that I had ended up there, even with knowing that it was healing and it was for my highest good and blah, blah, blah. It was like, you could not tell me that and like convince me that it should still feel good. I was like, I don't like this.
Like, this feels like crap. I don't care what anybody says. Hey, but that was the title of our recent episode. What was it called?
Oh, what you call crap is the gold or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all comes together.
I do love what you said, though, about learning from pleasure instead of pain. I mean, of course, we learn from pain and we know it serves us in such a deep way. But I didn't understand how powerful it is to learn from pleasure and to make joy really the center of your spiritual practice until probably this past year, in our Angels of Intuition mentorship that I'm in with Tyla. So I just loved that. What a beautiful
boy.
Yeah, what a beautiful
I love where this
piece.
conversation is going, because Sally is all about learning from pleasure.
Nice.
Well, Sally, so I'm curious, did that shift of learning from pain into learning from pleasure, when did that happen for you? Was it while you were still at home?
Yeah, I was still at home. It was a few months in.
Well,
it was around the new year. Yeah, I guess. So I had been getting for a while by that point, just like these messages of like, we always have an opportunity to learn from pleasure first, but oftentimes we say no. And so then the universe brings us something painful, and we are really used to learning from pain. Like, I think that that's something that humanity's got down. And it makes sense, because it's like, if this awful thing happened, there must be a lesson in it. Because otherwise, why did I go through it?
If you burn your hand on the stove once, you're not going to touch the stove again.
Exactly. So we're used to that, and we find the meaning in that. It's less common to find the meaning in the good things, to have a really wonderful day and then make a list of everything that it taught you. Like, that's not a thing that I had experienced up to that point. So I kept hearing these whisperings of that. At the time, I was in an intuitive mastermind for the first time. So it was really all about strengthening your intuition and learning to communicate with your intuition and follow your intuition and all of that. So with the encouragement of that, of my mastermind sisters and my coach at the time, I just kind of kept exploring this until basically I just like had it. I was like, well, this thing isn't working. So I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try to learn from pleasure and explore that. And so it started really simply. I would just do what I just described, where at the end of the day, I would kind of go through the highlight reel of the day, and everything good that happened, I would be like, okay, great. So that taught me a lesson. What was it? And it could be something really tiny, like I had a really wonderful meal with someone and it taught me that I can delight in dessert. Or I would have a really great conversation with someone and be like, oh, you know what? I am really open to synchronicity. This taught me that I'm really open to synchronicity. Or, it started out really small like that. And then the more that I did it, the more that I would pay attention to the pleasure, and the more that I would reinforce the lessons that I was learning. So that's what happened. Because I was home from like October-ish until April-ish. So it was about halfway through that I started to choose pleasure instead.
I have to say that I'm so thankful that you learned that lesson, because then you just got to tell me it. I didn't have to like figure it out for myself. Yeah. And it's totally revolutionized my life.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And actually, Caitlin, since both of you are in Angels of Intuition, she was one of the first people that I talked to about this. I was like, I've got this idea. I keep getting this message. I think my higher self is onto something.
So, Ashley, how did learning from pleasure play into your return home? Because it sounds like you got home and found out that you were so much more supported than you anticipated.
Yeah. So listening to Sally, it was just so beautiful, because I remembered that it really was pleasure that allowed me to take the crazy risk of really, leaving everything behind to go on my road trip. It was lots of soaking up the magic and simplicity, being out in the woods, enjoying a beautiful home cooked meal that I made just for myself, a beautiful conversation, all of these beautiful, simple things that were really feeding my soul. And I think what had happened was my ego was so noisy by the time I had gone back home, by the time I was driving back home. I had forgotten pleasure. And I remember crying about it once. I think I was in New Mexico and I was looking at one of the most beautiful sunsets I've ever seen. And I cried. Not because the sunset was so beautiful, but because I couldn't feel its beauty anymore. Not the way I had before I was on this trip. It was also ironic. So there was a moment when I had realized that I had lost my ability to really experience pleasure. I wasn't allowing myself to do that. When I came back home and I was reconnecting to my pleasure, it was reconnecting to just simple things, really simple things, like being with my sister, practicing yoga again. The first thing I had really done when I came home was join a 4-week fall detox, a small group of women that met every Saturday for 4 weeks, and we do yoga together. And then we just chat. It was kind of like a mini women's circle. And my sister had asked me if I wanted to join. And I remember saying, I'd love to, but I don't know if I have the money. I came home with probably $200 in my bank account. So I didn't know if I was going to say yes. And then, I was like, I really want to do it though. And she said, well, you deserve to do it. You need this. I'll pay for you and you can pay me back or not. So I said, okay, I'll take you up on it. And it was so wild. As soon as I said yes, I ended up booking an incredibly crazy amount of babysitting jobs. And I was working 3 different jobs a day. And I think I had made almost $1,000 that next week. So the money came through, which was really validating and affirming. And so I went into this cleanse knowing, okay, God really did want me to be here. This is important. And it was just simple. It was reconnecting to my own inner voice, being with women, sisterhood, connection. Sisterhood really was so huge for me during my return home. A huge part of reconnecting to pleasure.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, life.
Well, so when we were talking about how you felt a year ago today, the word you used was scared. And I'm wondering if you can name more precisely what it is you were scared of.
I was scared of failing. And at the root of that, I think I was terrified of my power. I knew that I was at this place, a crossroads, where it was either leaving everything behind that wasn't serving me, all of the stories that I had been clinging to, I had been hiding for so long, trying to keep myself safe. And it was either stay there or make a big leap and radically change your life. Start speaking your truth. Start sharing who you really are. Allow yourself to be seen. It was scary. I knew I was going to do it. I knew that there was no going back and it couldn't be any other way. But it was uncomfortable.
I'm so glad that I asked you that, because a thought that I've really been having while we've been talking is how I'm finding that one of the scariest things is to let the people who are closest to you see who you really are. It's really interesting as I move more into my spiritual path and as I embrace my intuition more and more. the people that I talk least about it with are the people that I've often called my close friends.
Mm.
And it's really interesting because right now, as I mentioned before, we're in the point of our certification program where we're doing practicum sessions, and in choosing who to invite into those sessions, like I've had a real internal struggle around letting people who think they know me really see me. So I'm so glad that I asked you that question, Ashley, of what you were scared of, because yes, scared of being a failure might have been part of it, but I feel the energy around being scared to be truly seen for who you really are by the people who think they know you. That energy is so strong.
Yeah, I can so relate to that. Showing,
Why is that? Why?
Yeah, showing up in that way to the people closest to me, parents and family members, close friends. There was a real fear of being rejected. Yeah, I was terrified of that. And it was a process. You know, some friendships did change, and part of stepping into my power was being okay with that. And there were times where family members didn't quite understand what I was doing. You know, from the outside looking in, a lot of what I do seems crazy and it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's part of it. It's part of trusting your own guidance and living your truth. It's tough though. It can be.
Because I have literally within the last 24 hours had that internal conversation of, am I willing to open myself up to this person in this way?
Mm.
And it's so funny. My theme for the month is bravery.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I love it too, kind of. You know, I kind of don't, because it's like every time I have that question of like, am I going to step forward and allow myself to be really seen? I have this little voice in my head, not the ego, but the other one that says, your theme for the month is bravery. And you're like, oh, fuck, are you kidding me? At least that's how I usually feel.
Yeah, it's almost a radical thing to do, to really live in truth. And it's shocking to me sometimes when I really think about it. You know, the work that we're doing, that all of us are doing, so important and impactful. But to look at it simply, all we're really doing is just simply sharing the truth. We're sharing love. It's something that's so natural and it's so right. And yet we don't do it often. We don't put down those walls. We don't get vulnerable. So for me, what's so motivating is to know that as I can share my truth, even if I'm terrified and my voice is shaking and I'm not as graceful as I wish I could be, I know I'm doing something important, and I'm hopefully giving other people the permission they feel like they need so that they can share themselves. Because that's where the magic is found. That's how we're going to start changing things. We all need more love. And I believe so strongly that truth is love and love is truth. They're the same.
Mm-hmm.
So what has unfolded for you in the larger sense in this last year since you've been back at home? If you were to share the truth of what you've experienced in this last year, what would you say it has all been about?
A lot of magical things have happened. It's been a lot of deep healing. The soul work continued. in a way that felt a lot more safe and contained than it did during my road trip. I joined the Angels of Intuition Sisterhood that we've been talking about and really committed myself to my soul work of deepening the love and acceptance I have for myself, knowing that I need to embody what it is I wish to share with other men and women. So yeah, it's been a lot of beautiful healing and introspection, learning how to embody love so that I can share it, because that's what fills my heart. That's what makes me want to get up in the morning, is simply being love and sharing love. And some days it's really easy and fun, and some days it's harder than others. So I started a business in March, and I've been one-on-one coaching with intuitive empaths and highly sensitive men and women. Those are my people. I'm an empath and highly sensitive, so that adds a unique layer to my soul work of, really learning how to love and accept myself, and also give myself the self-care I need, because I'm so energy sensitive. I need a lot of self-care. And that was hard for me for a long time. I really didn't understand what it meant to be empathic. So that's been another part of my journey over the past year, is getting to know these parts of myself and experimenting with what kind of self-care feels good and how I connect to my intuition, how I perceive spirit. And it's just been beautiful. The more I've gotten to know myself, the more I've been able to really serve people in the way I want to.
Why do you think you needed to be at home for this particular portion of your unfolding?
It's just been gift after gift. It really brings me to tears when I think about it. The yoga studio that I did the fall cleanse at last year, I now volunteer at and have connected with so many amazing people. I also joined another women's circle and have met two amazing soul sisters that I would have never met if I didn't come home. They've been so supportive and inspiring during this part of my life. I'm actually going to be in one of the girls' weddings next year. Yeah. So it's just the connections I've made have been beautiful. And through the sisterhood, I've found the strength that I need and the support I need to start facilitating my own women's circles. So on the full moon and new moon, I hold women's circles, and it's pure magic. So there's been that sisterhood. I've also had a beautiful opportunity to really heal the relationships with my family members. And I can see that the more I've been able to heal, the more change I've seen in both of my parents. I will forever be grateful for that. That's a miracle to me. I can't believe how much my relationships with my parents have improved. A couple of months ago, I moved back in with my mom. I was living with my sister initially, and that was really scary for me, moving back in with my mom. A lot of the same feelings you had talked about, Sally. Mm-hmm. And I'm just blown away by how beautiful and divine all of this has been. The change I've seen in my family is so inspiring. And I'm just really grateful that I've been given the chance to experience that.
I'm trying to kind of pinpoint what it is. What's the energy and what keeps coming through for me is that being home, being around the people that we have always thought we know, allows us to recognize change in a way that I don't know you can necessarily recognize change out in the world amongst strangers. Even if you're having beautiful experiences out in the world, witnessing changes in yourself as you react with the familiar, and witnessing changes manifesting externally in the familiar, and that kind of transformation. I'm wondering, like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out why you had to be at home for this portion of your soul work, as you so beautifully call it.
Yeah, that's making a lot of sense. You know, the story that I kept telling myself when I was coming back home, there was a sense of failure because I felt like I was going back to something that was the same. I was going back to the familiar. And, you know, we know that it's our internal world that really creates our reality. So to come home to the familiar and realize that nothing was the same. Nothing was the same. Everything was different. That was huge. That blew my mind.
It's really gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh. Sally, do you have any more questions for Ashley?
I don't think so. I'm just, like, in awe of the parallels and just reflecting on my own journey.
I know. It's been amazing to hear your story.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask Sally, does that same kind of feeling resonate for you, what we were just talking about? I feel like maybe it's something different for you, why you needed to be back home.
Yeah, I think that the primary reason that I needed to be back was for deep healing within my family structure and ancestral, like, patterns. So part of it definitely does resonate with me. I think that that is really important. And going back to what I said before about, like, being my new self in an old space, that was a thought that I had pretty much every day. But I do think more than that, I really, it kind of was like, it laid the groundwork for a lot of future healing and growth opportunities. Even like last winter, learning that my sister had finally kind of seen some of our family dynamics, in particular, like with me and my mother, for what they really are and what I had seen them as for a long time. I don't know that that would have happened quite in the same way, that it would have unfolded as beautifully as it did had I not been home. Because I think that it kind of, for one, it made me realize that I was not crazy and I was not making anything up, like being home, that is. I had grown up really thinking that, like, there's something wrong with me. Everyone else seems to be fine, but me. And then being back was like, oh, wait, there's nothing wrong with me. This is just not my place. This is not where I belong in this way. So yeah, so I think that between that and, like, learning from pleasure obviously came out of that. A lot of these really big things that have developed over the last couple of years have been because of going back home and having that experience.
You know what I'm just realizing right now is that I'm at my childhood home right now while we're having this conversation.
I realized that like an hour ago.
I mean, I kind of did, but I kind of didn't. Like, it just really hit me. And what's really beautiful is that, you know, you're talking about, like, being your new self in an old space. It's like, on this trip, I have found myself relating to my mother in a way that feels really, really good. Mm. And we've always been very close and things have always felt good between us, but I have often not totally enjoyed the person that I can be around her sometimes. I can get really impatient and really condescending, and I hate that part of myself. And having this conversation is really just making me realize that things feel totally different this time. Mm-hmm. And I think she's changed as well, but I think it's because I've changed.
Yeah, I was having another thought while I was just soaking up everything you guys were saying. It's all so beautiful. And what was coming to me is that spirit guides us to where our medicine is needed most. So not only are we being guided to where we're going to receive everything we need, but to where we really need to be to help heal the collective, whether that's being with our family and, inspiring them with our light or holding the women's circles or whatever it is. I've been really feeling that truth lately. Like we're being guided to where the world needs us to be most.
I love that.
Yeah, that's, again, so gorgeous. So, Ashley, if you think back now on a year ago today, given all that's happened and all the ways you've grown, could you describe for us how you feel in one word?
Proud. Yeah. I'm proud.
I love that. And if you could, as the person that you are now, speak to the person that you were a year ago today and give her some advice, what would you say?
I think I'd give her a big hug and let her know that she is going to have so much fun. It'd be safe for her to just relax, have fun with it, laugh, play. Like Sally said, really come back to all of those simple pleasures that she holds so dear to her heart. No need to really worry. There's going to be so much fun to be had.
Mm.
Oh, man. And, I mean, now that we're done with our official question portion, aren't you leaving on a huge adventure like tomorrow, Ashley?
I am. I'm flying to Alaska tomorrow, and I am so excited.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, if anybody out there wants to follow your journey on Instagram or any other kind of social media, where would they find you?
You can find me at my website. It's ashley-hogan.com. And through there, you'll get all of the links to my social media.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You better post some good Alaskan pictures.
Oh, I definitely will be.
Tyla's new favorite thing is making Instagram requests.
Yeah, you can expect lots of those.
Oh boy. Sally, where can the people find you on the internet?
They can find me at sallymercedes.com or at unmutedexpression.com or at Sally Simply on social media. What about you?
TylaFowler.com. And I changed my Instagram handle to just Tyla Fowler instead of Tyla M. Fowler. So that's fun. You can find me there.
So great.
And you can find all the things about our podcast at ayearagopodcast.com, our gorgeous new website.
Mm-hmm. It's so great.
And all the social medias at A Year Ago Podcast.
Mm-hmm. And you can email us at ayearagopodcast@gmail.com. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, I keep begging people to email us, and we have received 0 emails. Okay, so I'm not lying when I tell you I am going to freak out with joy when we receive our first email from someone that is listening that we don't know, or even if we do know you, just come on, people, come
just
on, because
us.
it's gonna make my year. Just come on. Email us, tell us what you're thinking, what you're feeling, all the things.
I really love that I thought that you, the way you prefaced that, I've been begging people. I thought you were going to be so I'm not begging anymore. But you were I am doubling down on the begging.
I am begging so hard. Please send us email because I just, I want to connect with you all so badly.
I know. We know you're there.
We know you're there. And it's such an interesting experience because we know that there are a lot of people listening, and we know that the audience is kind of rapidly growing, which is amazing, but we have no idea who you are. So tell us who you are. Tweet at us, Instagram, hashtag, Snapchat.
Do all the things.
We don't actually have Snapchat, but whatever.
Oh, man. And we love you.
And we love you.
And if you like our intro outro music, you can follow Zena Hal on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Share this podcast with everyone.
Share the podcast. We love it when you do that. And it would be really, really wonderful. I haven't asked this in a while, for you to rate and review our podcast wherever you're listening to it, because that's really, really helpful. Yeah,
it helps other people find our podcast, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And also, even though we've had a huge spike in listenership, we haven't had any more ratings. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So leave a rating and a review.
Yeah.
It's easy.
It
is easy.
Okay. All right. That's it, folks.
Bye, everyone. We love you.